Marion Gomez is a poet and teaching artist based in Minneapolis. She was awarded a Minnesota State Arts Board Cultural Community Partnership Grant to work with Latina youth, and was one of 4 poets selected by Linda Hogan and Ed Bach Lee for the Loft Literary Center's 2008 Mentor Series. Please welcome Marion.
Thank you, and thank you, David, for inviting me. I'm going to start with a beach poem. I hope it's not cruel. I hope maybe it makes us think of warmer days. It's called The Sea Lion and Me and Our Beautiful Bodies. On the sand, we are sacks of potatoes, 2 large lumps, but the water allows our body to glide. Removing the heaviness, we become buoyant. The water is generous, making room for us, unlike the hot, oppressive air, pinning us to the ground, hungry for our space. We rest on the shore until we can again divide the water, away from picnics and people. The sea lion is my mother, her long flipper draped over me, her blubber pressing against my body, cooling my skin, while her whiskers kiss my face. The sea lion does not suck in her belly, but lets it glisten, like a giant sweet potato, unashamed because the water accepts her, parts for her, welcoming her with every dive. I would love to ride on the back of my sea lion mother, my life preserve, her short, thick hair, my reins, as her powerful body pushes forward. So this next poem is about my last name. It's called Mi Apellido Es. Gomez, a scar left by salvating conquistadors in search of their gilded man, summoning the ship that carried my great-grandfather across the Atlantic, the blood in and on the hands. The lush palmas de Barranquilla, Colombia, I've only seen in pictures. A tombstone to the language my father buried with his father to embrace my mother's English. A 5-letter word floating in the pot, refusing to melt. A badge offering partial membership, hanging below a face that can pass among the white pines of Minnesota. A kiss from my father before bed. A maiden name, marriage will never change. So this next one is about my father, and he came to Minnesota in 1967. And so this is, I guess, a story he told me about his first experiences here. It's called Father Laments to Daughter, and there's an epigraph. My sorrow is my baronial castle, which lies like an eagle's nest high up on the mountain peak among the clouds, by Soren Kierkegaard. It was hard for me to get work in Monticello, even with my father-in-law's connections, though he briefly relieved my sorrow by getting me a job collecting chicken eggs. But, well, it was hard for people to welcome a stranger into their town. My English wasn't too good, and I didn't fit in on the baronial farm, its white barn standing alone on the Minnesota prairie like a castle. My boss ended up having to let me go, for which I don't blame him. He didn't believe my coworkers' lies. They were responsible for my eggs being broken. But like he said, either I fire all of them or take an economical approach. I had to leave, follow the eagles down the Mississippi in order to bring back food to my nest. In my loneliness, I sought out the temporary high found between anonymous arms in the night, winding up more alone than I had ever been, away from my family on the eve of 1973 and newly divorced. The IDS tower resembled a lone mountain in the Minneapolis skyline. Its ominous peak dared me to climb it, to take my place among the once rejected Irish and Italian, the excluded Chinese, to step off the ledge and finally fill my mouth with the words hanging in the clouds. Okay, this one is called Between the Sheets. Abuelita picks up one of the bed sheets I've folded, grumbling, "Ay, mijita." Erasing my work, we begin to refold each sheet and dance what seems a sacred rite. We spread out our arms, becoming crosses, then bring them together as if in prayer. I step to her, struggling to meet her corners. I teach you to fold una sabana so you get husband. I abstain from telling her my lover has never complained. A wife and mother since she was 14. Abuelita's sheets matured before mine. At 14, I still hadn't kissed a boy. 14, my father would boast. Same age Mary had Jesus. Leaving me with the image of Abuelita, pregnant and riding a camel. As the sheet balloons between us, I wonder what it is like to be with child. But the empty air cannot teach what the weight of the womb knows, a knowledge I am reluctant to receive, favoring twisted, damp sheets to these starched white linens that match Abuelita's pulled back hair. So if you couldn't tell, I write a lot about my father. And so these next two last pieces are also about him. This one's called The American. My father flips through the Parade of Homes catalog. The cover reads, "Where dream homes come true." He marvels at $1 million geothermal heated home. At 67, with his most steady source of income, a social security check, he still dreams of buying a house with every lottery ticket he purchases. Still wants a piece of el sueño americano. He's lived in his share of cramped apartments and shameful trailer homes, and would like to live in a place he'd be proud to call his own. As a child, I thought he was Elvis with his shiny black pompadour, and at Christmas, Santa Claus. Working a full-time and at least 2 part-time jobs, for the day he would help his youngest adjust his tassel before taking his place among the others in black robes, like crows perched on the edge of the future. And this last one is called How My Father Speaks. My father hears his voice recorded, cringes. I sound like a stupid Latino. Reading out loud, he stumbles, pronouncing his English R's. He did it to me. He said, "Don't cry." And I haven't cried in a long time. Anyways, I'm sorry. Reading out loud, he stumbles, pronouncing his English R's, the 3rd letter in my name. Wishes he could speak without the accent. My ears don't register as anything but how my father speaks. The accent strangers pick up immediately, surprising him with the question, "Where are you from?" The question a classmate asked me after my father called me to the phone. How could she know he was from somewhere else? He sounds funny. My face reddened, and I was grateful to the phone for hiding my embarrassment. In high school Spanish, I could not roll my R to save my life. I probably would have had my tongue snipped from below if raised in South America. A fat, lazy tongue, the cultural equivalent to our lisp. My father can't stop rolling his R to save his life. Yet even when he calls me sweetheart, his voice crackling like a vinyl record, I don't hear his accent. I hear more than his accent. To me, my father sounds like no one else.